Recording.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to hear my story. I haven't even told it yet. You're already laughing. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it's a giggly group. Okay. So, the name of the story is The Day It Snowed Tortillas. I know, silly, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so hace mucho tiempo, a long time ago, there lived a woodcutter. And he would go into the woods every morning and chop down trees. And he would chop them up into firewood and he would take them to the village and sell them for money. Now, he was not a rich man. You know, he made just enough money to buy what he needed. And he was not very smart. He had never been to school, so he didn't know how to read or write. And he just wasn't very bright. But he was very lucky because he had married a woman who was very smart.
It's a funny story. It's a funny
It is,
story
isn't
for
it?
me.
Yeah. Okay. So he married a very clever woman, and she would usually get him out of all the trouble that he would get into because he wasn't very smart, but she could get him out of the trouble. So one day he's in the woods and he is chopping at a tree. And then he, between swings of his axe, he hears voices out here in the woods. So he goes and he starts walking toward where the voices were, and then he sees three men. And so he hides behind a tree and he peeks around. And he hears these men bragging about 3 bags of gold that they had just stolen. So he knew they were robbers. And they were there in the forest, they were digging a hole and they buried their gold so that they could come back later and get it. Well, the woodcutter saw the robbers leave, and he went and he dug up the money and the gold, and he took it home to his wife. And his wife was shocked. She was like, "Where did you get this?" And so he explained about the robbers, and she said, "You can't tell anybody where you got this gold, because then the robbers will come back, they'll come to our house, and they'll want their gold back, and they may kill us." And then she realized, oh my goodness, my husband can never keep a secret. So what am I going to do? So she came up with a plan. She gave her husband some of the gold out of one of the bags, and she said, "You go to the village and buy me a 100-pound bag of flour." He was like, "Why? Why do I have?" She said, "Just go and do it. Just do as I say." And so he went to the village and bought the 100-pound bag of flour, and he dragged it back to the house. He said, "Here you go." And she said, "You look tired. Maybe you should go lay down." And oh, he liked that idea. So he went and he laid down, and pretty soon he was snoring. Well, as soon as he started snoring, she went to work. She got that 100-pound bag of flour, and she started making tortillas. She was making tortillas, and she made a stack as high as the ceiling in their kitchen. And she used all that flour. Well, after she made all those tortillas, she went outside and she threw them all over the ground. And so the next morning when her husband woke up, he went to go outside and he opened the door and he saw tortillas everywhere. And he said, wife, come here. And she came over to the door and she said, "Oh, it must have snowed tortillas last night." And the woodcutter was saying, I've never heard of such a thing. And she said, "You've never heard of it snowing tortillas?" He said, "No." And she said, "Well, you're not very smart. And remember, you did not go to school. So maybe you need to go to school and learn a few things." So she made him get dressed up in his finest Sunday suit. and she was going to send him to school. But before she sent him to school, she gave him a long string of sausages. And she said, I want you to go tie up our lazy dog to that tree outside with these sausages. He said, what? I don't understand. And she said, just do as I say. Go tie the dog up with the sausages, then you go to school. He said, okay. So he took the sausages and he tied the dog to the tree with the sausages, and then he went on to school. Well, because he had never been to school before and he didn't know how to read or write, they put him in kindergarten, just like you. And the teacher was asking questions, and the kindergartners were raising their hands and answering the questions. And you know, the woodcutter, he was in one of those little tiny chairs too. And he didn't know any of the answers. And he was embarrassed. And pretty soon he just got frustrated, and he stomped out of that school, and he went back home, and he told his wife, I'm done with school. I'm not going back. I'm gonna go cut some wood. She said, okay, bye. So, in about 1 week, who showed up at their door but the robbers? Just as the wife thought might happen, because her husband had been telling everybody in the village where he got the gold. So the robbers came and knocked on the door real hard, and they said, we know you've got our gold. Your husband's been telling everybody in the village that he's got it. And the wife was saying, I don't know anything about any gold. My husband says the strangest things. I don't know why, but we don't have your gold. And the robber said, yeah, well, we'll just wait till your husband gets home and ask him. And so they waited around the house all day, sharpening their knives and cleaning their pistols, just in case. And so the woodcutter came home after work that day, and the robber said, we know you've got our gold because you've been telling everybody in the village that you've got it. So where is it? It's like, gold? Oh yeah. I gave it to my wife. Wife, come here. Remember that gold I gave you that I found in the woods? She said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, remember I gave it to you the day before it snowed tortillas. And she looked at him like, okay. And then he said, remember the day that it snowed tortillas, you made me go to school and you made me tie the dog up to the tree with sausages. And she was just shaking her head like, looking at the robbers like, see, I told you, he says strange things. And the robbers were looking at each other, and they said, did he say it snowed tortillas? Another one said, did he say he tied his dog to a tree with sausages? And the other one said, did he say his wife sent him to school? So the robbers talked a little while, and pretty soon they said, all right, we're leaving. He's crazy. Okay? So they left the woodcutter and his wife, and they never came back. So, in the end, it didn't matter if the woodcutter didn't know how to read or write, or that he had never been to school, because now he was rich, because he had 3 bags of gold for him and his wife. Y vivieron felices hasta el fin de sus días. They lived happily ever after till the end of their days. The end.
Let's go.